share.
Welcome back to the Morgan Dialogues. Now, previously on our channel, we've discussed two important topics such as letting go and rejection. If you haven't watched those videos yet, we're going to leave the links down in the description box for you. But today we're going to be talking about something that I think builds on both of those topics, and it's about relocating. So, babe, tell us, what is relocating and why is it important? Why are we talking about it today?
That's a good sign. You notice we spoke about letting go and even facing rejection. There are some times in our life that we may have to let go of a certain situation, whether it's at a workplace, whether it's in a relationship, whatever that isolated incident may represent. But in this case, there are times when it's so widespread, when it's happening not only at home, not only at your workplace, not only, let's say, in your relation, you may feel rejected, you may feel that you have to let go, but there's a greater need for you to relocate, maybe so much into a different environment. So today we're going to be looking at 5 signs that you need to relocate from, whether you're home, yes, I did say it, your home, that's also one. It may be your country, or even your very own community where you grew up in. And today we're going to look at that.
All right, let's start with number 1.
Have you ever reached a point in your life where things just keep happening as if it's telling you it's time to move on?
So things like, outside forces that are sort of pushing you out of your environment. Like one good example I can think of is a job that I was working at, and no matter what was going on there, things were just pushing me away. So whether I wasn't getting along with coworkers, I had a rough relationship with my supervisor, and going home every day just anxious, stressed out, and feeling totally like I don't want to be here anymore. So it's almost like you hear those thoughts in your mind saying, do I really want to be here? Do I really see myself staying a part of this for another month or another 2 months or 3 months? And so you sort of feel like that everything's around you is kind of like pushing you out of it.
So when you mean by everything, you're saying that, we know things don't speak. But are you saying that the situations itself is as if it's pushing you?
Situations don't push either.
Situations don't push either?
No, I mean that.
So what do you mean in that case then?
So what I mean is sometimes when you first start at a place, or whether you're at home, school, a career, a new relationship, everything feels fresh. Everything feels exciting.
True.
It's a new experience, and you're looking at it with a lot of hope, optimism, and you're just kind of open to seeing where things go. And then as it moves along with time, or maybe not even time sometimes it's just the opportunities or moments, things that happen, and all of a sudden they start to feel like everything just switched on you, like 180. Nothing like gradually got bad. It's just that all of a sudden people have a problem with you now. Your workplace, everyone's attacking you, or where you're at school, it's like your professor's being unfair. It's just things just start happening around you out of your control. It's not like you did anything wrong, but it just starts to fight against you.
So hold on, so it's not just an isolated incident then?
Yeah.
Being rejected, it's one thing, letting go is another thing, but when it's happening in a wide scale, so technically you're saying, in essence, when things are pushing us, so it may be happening at our workplace, so it may be happening at home at the same time as well.
Right.
And it may, even relationship for that matter. In other words, it's something, there are things happening, and no matter what we do, it tend to just want to say, hey, maybe there's somewhere else that you need to be.
Exactly. New relationships, new everything. Yeah, I feel it is a combination of things. I even think about when we got married, or when we were getting married. It's like friendships, business, everything just started pulling me away from my current physical environment, right? I just felt like I was getting called elsewhere, and the situations around was working to push me out of my comfort zone, out of my environment.
So you're saying it's a good thing when these things happen?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you could definitely panic when you see them happening, but it's definitely life just telling you it's the next step. It's time to move on. It's time to let go and open up your horizons to new beginnings.
Oh, very good.
The second sign is you're struggling to find like-minded individuals or people who are driven to do sort of the same thing as you. Can you explain to us what it means when you are struggling to find like-minded people around where you are, and why is that a sign that it could be time to relocate?
Well, I can remember there instance that I was at my workplace, and I love my workplace, for example.
Yeah.
But there came a time when I felt a need that there's more to me, maybe there's more to life. And I was thinking of probably, let's say, starting my own business, for example. Remember, I was working, I was an employee at the time.
Right.
But whenever I, probably mention that idea to a fellow co-worker or someone, even at home as well, that's the thing, it's not just at your workplace, it's happening around you.
Yeah.
Maybe at home I mentioned that idea. I didn't get persons like motivating me or supporting me or even had similar ideas.
Yeah.
It was more like, why are you thinking about that? Don't you see that that's too hard? You know, a lot, that's something that may not work.
So a lot of criticism.
Yeah, in other words, they always say this. They always talk about safety.
Yes.
Does it have benefits?
Yeah.
So I'm like, what? But in other words, I didn't find persons who were adventurous.
Yeah.
So there was a time that I was in my workplace and I had to think, well, why is it that I find myself not able to find persons around me who was thinking just like how I was thinking and would even motivate or inspire me?
I think that's important because I feel at times when you're around a lot of people who you think you would be like-minded with, but you have these big ideas, big visions, big goals, it's so easy to ignore those things, ignore what's inside of you. You might be thinking, oh, something must be wrong with me. Nobody else is thinking the same way as me. Am I the only one with like these, imaginations and dreams and goals and stuff? And I think that's dangerous because if you stick around those people long enough, they'll start to erode on your confidence and what you believe in your vision. So if you stay around that too long, soon enough, you might be like, yeah, it's just in my head, or, oh, maybe I'm just wishful thinking, when really it is your calling that's pulling you out of there.
You know what's amazing what you said? I remember when I was at home, I used to do a lot of research, online research, but more overseas. Till if my brother was saying, why are you focusing on over there? You're in this country. Why you keep thinking along those lines?
Right.
And that was one of the signs that was saying, hey, maybe the people around me wasn't thinking like me. Even at my workplace, I remember when I eventually reached a point where I started seeking opportunities elsewhere. And even the principal at the time, she was like, oh, that's a school you're thinking of going. Oh, sir, all those dreams visions that you used to have, that school is going to be just right for you.
Wow.
In other words, that principal and that person was telling me that, hey, they weren't thinking like me. They didn't have similar ideas and visions like myself. However, there's someplace else, there's somewhere else, there's someone else that has similar thinking like yourself. And it may be a good idea for you to venture off in that area.
Yeah, very good.
What about the third sign now?
What's the third sign?
All right, so the third sign is when there's a time that you may not be challenged. So you don't feel like you're being challenged anymore. You may be at workplace, and you were challenged when you went there, because it's new. Every workplace that's new is there. But because you've been there so long, it's
like you've sort of mastered your position. Yeah, because I've been there where once you're at a place long enough and you've been putting your hard work into learning it inside and out, all of a sudden you could probably do it in your sleep, right? You can do it without even thinking about it. And you do find yourself kind of feeling this sense of like, I wish I could have more to do, or I wish I could grow. And like, yes, if you're in a workplace where they have a good growth path, like promotions and stuff, you can still keep rising. But for a lot of us, when we're not in positions like that or workplaces like that, or even school and at home, right, everything feels very stagnant. You feel like everything's kind of at a cap, or I've hit a ceiling, and I don't feel like I'm being challenged to grow anymore. And I think that's a big sign that you gotta like take your roots out and go elsewhere, because one thing in life we don't want to do is stop growing. Like, we're always growing. So when you're at a location, a job, or a career, a relationship even, and you feel like this isn't going anywhere. You know, I feel like, and you're not being challenged, and things aren't going in a direction that takes you to a higher level, then you know that can be frustrating as well.
And here's a difference now that I want to pinpoint when it comes to that. Although I didn't feel challenged, let's say at that workplace, I still love what I was doing at that time.
Yeah.
So here's something I want to be clear with you. You can still enjoy your job, but you just feel like there's more to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably you looked out and you're like, you know, at that workplace, there could be more. There could be more that I could be doing.
Right. Yes, I like that distinction. It's like you still love where you are.
Yes, you still love what you are.
Yes, like my last job, I loved where I was, but I basically hit this cap.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, is there more I can do?
And it goes to persons who want to grow as well.
Yeah.
Because in other words, there are a lot of persons who may not think the same way as we do when that happens.
Yeah.
Because they may not have that growth mindset to say, hey, I want more for myself.
Right.
It could be a relationship. You're in that relationship, but maybe you want to do something together.
Yeah.
And probably I have a thought, I have something I want to work on, but the other person may not really think that way. Are they like, hey, why are you talking about, what are you doing? So it doesn't challenge me to do something or to go outside the box or try something new. But I still love what's happening, but I don't feel like I'm being pushed or being challenged to do something else. And I think that's the problem.
I think that goes into our fourth sign about how you may feel the need, or this may be a sign that it's time to relocate, is that you feel unmotivated or uninspired.
What's the difference there?
Right, so our last sign is like you don't feel like you're being challenged, but like we said, you still enjoy being at this place, you love being there, but then when it gets to like a spiritual level where now you don't feel inspired or you don't feel motivated. Like I just remember where a job I loved so much, all of a sudden in a matter of years, because my situation was pushing me out, it became like a chore to go to work. Like obviously there was a lot happening on the job as well that contributed to that. You know, like if your workplace culture doesn't cultivate, you know, employees that really enjoy being there, it can start chipping away at your motivation to even go. But this doesn't happen to everyone, because I can say like my coworkers, they were fine, it seemed. But with me, I started to feel very uninspired and unmotivated to go to work, even to the point where, as embarrassing as it is to say, I used to go to work early all the time, get there at least 30 minutes and just get everything together. But when I got into this phase where I was just like unmotivated to go and I felt so uninspired, and it was so unlike me, and I think we need to pay attention to that too, because there are a lot of us that have great work ethics, we love our job, we do a good job, and then all of a sudden when you don't like going there anymore, then you know something's shifted. And so for me, I started trying to time how late I can leave home, you know, so that I can stay home longer and be at work less. Yes. Like, so I would, sometimes when I started experimenting, I was like, okay, I'm going to leave 5 minutes later than my usual time that I go. 10 minutes, 20 minutes. So I'm like stretching it to see how late can I leave, because I just didn't feel like going anymore.
And initially you were okay leaving your house earlier
I would get to work about 30 minutes or an hour.
I know that feeling. You know, one thing that happened as well when I knew probably it was time as well. Not only did I also experience that, but I used to stay back after to help out, probably, you know. But then I became so unmotivated that I just did the bare minimum. I only did what was needed at our workplace. That's it. They can't get me in trouble. There's nothing that can happen.
Doing your job.
But in a sense, I'm like clocked out, checked out. Have you ever been in a relationship and you're like checked out? You're there, you know?
Yeah, you're kind of just going through the motion, but you're not there. Yeah, I think that's, to me, a telltale sign. Like, it's time for you to move, because I feel like anytime you stop giving your best in life, that's not a good thing, you know? And I think we were both good employees, right? Like we loved where we were, but as soon as you started feeling that like you're unmotivated, you're uninspired, your workplace is no longer, like you're not energized to be there anymore. And I know this could happen when you're at a place for a long period of time, but we're talking about switching. Your mind frame is so different compared to when you first started, because like you can have you could be at work for a long time and like, okay, it's just a routine, but you still do a good job, you still put your best foot forward. But when you're purposely like, I'm checked out, like you're purposely doing it, it's not a good sign.
And it can happen at home as well.
I
don't think I want persons to
think it's just about work.
Because I remember there's someone who shared with me that based on how they were evil, the plans that they had for their life, the fact that they wanted to go to college and wanted something for themselves. But the persons in that home, they literally didn't inspire them. They even felt like giving up. So the fact that you had persons who to you are the closest to you at home now, and not even them didn't want to motivate you, they literally said they move on. They literally moved out of that home because and they felt, no, mind you, it was more expensive. We're going to talk about that, about persons thinking about that. But both the sisters together, they decided that they had to, and their life became better when they moved out, because that's when they had a surrounding of people that at least was adventurous like them, who was motivated, inspired by what they were doing, and just moving away from persons and environment and situation that didn't value your drive and your vision. It can make a difference.
That's great.
Are you ready for the last one?
Yes. What's the last one?
All right, so it's time for you to relocate from your home, your country, or wherever your community is, wherever you're from. Is when there's a calling upon your life, and it keeps getting stronger over time. All right, may I? That's
sure,
okay?
Babe, go ahead.
All right, so let me give you an example what that meant for me. I remember I was working at this place, and I love what I do. Maybe that's why a person saw the passion in what I was doing. So I was working with some students, teenagers, helping them rehabilitate their life, getting their life back together. And I remember when there's a section that will take them to the school. And I used to help them out now and then in whatever way I can. And I noticed a few teachers there, two specifically. And at different times they'll come to me and said, you know that you could become a teacher. I was like, what are you talking about? But in that area, in that community where I was from, I had to relocate basically to do there. But in my mind, I was wondering, what are they talking about? You know what's strange? There were some teachers in my family at that time, and I never considered that profession. I never. And what was even strange, there was another co-worker who did the same job that I did. He had no knowledge of this happening to me, but he himself was there, and he said, hey Neil, you know, I'm checking out this teaching opportunity. Yes, thank you. And he was encouraging me. That's how you know that there's a calling. Like so
people are pointing it out in you.
Yes, people are seeing something more in you, something else, something more than where you are. In other words, they saw everyone, but within you, they are the ones. So in other words, unlike those things are pushing you, someone else now is literally saying, hey, you know that I think there is more inside you. And and definitely that opportunity wasn't where we were. So they were encouraging me to think about something else.
So would you say that a calling that's kind of calling you out of where you are, does it feel comfortable? Does it feel like, I think I could do that?
Definitely not.
Okay.
Because when I even thought about it and started thinking, getting serious, the first thing is, how am I going to manage? If I leave this job, am I going to get another job? If I leave this relationship, how are things going to work out for me? So a lot of these things come up in your mind, but you know what really happened? And I think this is powerful. Here's the beauty about life that I start. Life is waiting for us to make a change. And I remember when there was a time in my life I used to eat a lot of junk food. Wasn't the healthy type.
Yeah.
But the moment I made that decision to make a change or start something new, and I started looking for the healthy products in the supermarket, the same supermarket I shop almost every time, let's say every month for that period of time. And I finally started looking at this shelf that had these, you know, nutritious products. Now, it dawned on me, whoa, was this here all along? And here's the thing, that shelf had those nutritious products all along. As a matter of fact, when I look beside that shelf, I saw the shelf that I always went. What am I trying to say to you? There are opportunities waiting for us out there. They are there, but you will not see them if you're not looking for them. So whenever I said to myself, okay, I'm going to open up to this opportunity, I'm going to start eating healthy, that's when I realized there was a shelf. As a matter of fact, even at the workplace, when I finally thought about taking on this teaching opportunity, becoming a teacher, I knew I had to go to school. But I was like, I don't have no money, I don't have this, I don't. But then, because I was thinking about it, that's when my coworker said, don't worry yourself. Because I then say, hey, but I don't have money, blah, blah. That's when he said, no worry, because there's a scholarship that the government was giving out. Oh my God. Here's my point. I never would have thought about this. This wouldn't have come to me if I wasn't start pursuing it.
You know, I have a parallel experience, but mine's with a car. So when I got a new car, what I got was a Volkswagen Beetle. Now, prior to getting this car, I did not see a Volkswagen Beetle in sight anytime I was driving around. Then all of a sudden, when I did, I saw Beetles everywhere. I'm like, where were all these cars before I even had one? And it just goes to show you, like, these cars very well could have been around all this time. I just didn't have
I don't think they dropped out this guy, just all of us.
I don't think they just appeared just because I got one. But that's the thing, it's like you have to be willing to see that there could be more for you, because you're calling, like you said, it just kind of pulls you, whether you have people telling you this is something that you should do, or it's even like just within you. You just feel like something won't escape you, because I look at the pattern of my life and everything kept pointing me to starting my own business, right? But I was still stuck in that, oh no, I just want to work a safe, secure job, and you know, and I don't want to run my own thing and all that. But all the patterns of my life was pointing to that. Like, I can look back on every job I've had, a lot of experiences, and I realized, wow, I was being called to entrepreneurship all that time. But until I had eyes to see it, I didn't see those opportunities, you know. But as soon as I made that switch in my heart, and I was like, you know, I am so tired of using all my skills, all of my talents, all of my creativity to build other people's businesses and dreams while mine continued to sit on a shelf collecting dust. And that's when I knew I made a mental switch in my mind, and all of a sudden everything just opened up to me. I started finding opportunities on, you know, starting a photography business, master classes. These are things that there's no way out of my free research I would have found. But because I was in that mental framework now of, okay, this is what I want to do, this is what I feel is being, like, I'm being called to do, now I'm open and I'm starting to see all the opportunities come to me.
So they were there all along.
They were there all along. Like, it's not like I was the first person to start a business, right? Like, you know, I could have easily been Googling, like, how do you start a business and all these things, but I wasn't, because that wasn't where my mind frame was, even though life was definitely calling me in that direction.
So these are the 5 signs that you need to relocate. You may be wondering to yourself, what if just 1 or 2 of those signs are what is happening in my life at the time? Do you think it's time to relocate?
No, I think it's what is important, obviously, praying and taking your time to really think about it. It's not a decision you make on the fly.
Very good.
You know, this takes time, you know, and it doesn't happen automatically. And even if you're just thinking, okay, what would that look like for me? That's already
a
step
start.
one. That's already step one.
That's a good start.
You know, but we feel that, you know, if you have most, if not all of these signs, it is most definitely pointing to the fact that there may be a chance that you need to be considering, you know, where you are now and where you need to be going.
You know, I can imagine someone asking the question again, But if all these things are happening to me at my workplace, I'm being pushed out at home, because there are times when I was at a workplace and they literally looked at me and said, hey, if this happens again, we're going to do something about you.
Yeah, hold that thought, because
yes,
I think that's key, is that if you're at your workplace or you're at home and people are just creating problems to have with you, right? It's not that you're a bad employee, or it's not that you're being deliberate in your attempts to make life at home horrible. It's just that now all of a sudden people are just finding problems to have with you.
Finding faults.
Like they're finding faults, like any small thing you do. Like I know when I was walking on eggshells at my last job, I knew something was wrong. So I'm like, everybody, like they're finding something wrong about what I'm doing. And I think that was important to mention.
I remember I was living somewhere, and because of who I am, and they didn't like who I am, they eventually reached a point there and said, the landlord said to me, hey, I don't want you to be here the next few months.
Wow.
So even they themselves could, if they're trying to, we're trying to push me out there, but sometimes it's reached a point where they themselves are saying, hey, it's for you, but it was for my own good. Because when that person said that, when they said it at the workplace, hey, is either you do something else, we're going to do something about your employment here, or the landlord say, hey, in the next few months I don't want it to be here. It never, because I was thinking about it before, it didn't take me much to say to them, it's okay, I won't be here for too long. What does it mean now for you whenever, let's say you finally make that decision, like I'm going to make that relocate, because it's a process. How does that make you feel, even being at that workplace, at home, whenever you're starting to make that decision? How does that feel? Does it still feel, do you feel unmotivated, uninspired? Do you feel challenged? How do you feel mentally when you start making that decision?
Yeah, I think mentally you don't have that fear. I think you're kind of like, there has to be better than this. Has
something happened to you though, when you decide that, hey, in the next couple months or probably this month of time, I'm going to leave this workplace or leave this relation? Or how does that feel when you finally make that decision of?
Well, I will say that it's definitely scary. It's definitely, because you don't know what's going to happen on the other side of it. But at the same time, you do feel that, like, somehow in your mind, even though you might be afraid, you're uncertain of what's going to happen, you feel kind of a resolve, like, no, I'm determined for this not to continue on anymore. And you take that leap of faith, whether you have a plan B or a plan C or anything of that nature, you just know that where you are now is not worth staying any longer. You know, and I think we talked about this yesterday, like when you're at rock bottom, you know, how much further down can you go, right? The only direction now is up, and you just have to give yourself a chance to do it, you know, and do it scared if you have to. But
I love that. I love that part. So you're saying, if I'm on the ground, if workplace is the worst, home is the worst, wherever, everywhere is like, the fact that I'm at my lowest, wherever, by taking that step and start making that move to relocate, it can only get
better.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's like, you already know what your situation is right now, and if you genuinely and honestly took a look at it, you would tell yourself, this stinks. Like, I don't want to be in this situation. I mean, do you really want to be in that situation? It even got to the point for me, like when I took that leap to quit my job, I was just like, you know, I don't know what that struggle is going to look like, because entrepreneurship is its own struggle. But I knew that was going to be better than where I was. Did I know things at my job was going to change? I wasn't certain. But all I knew was that it just got worse every day for me to be there. Like, stripping away my joy, stripping away, like, I didn't have a grace anymore to deal with it. You know, and it's like, there's sometimes where you're at work or you're at home or you're in a relationship and you have problems and you guys sort them out. You try to resolve it. You try to come up with solutions. But when you've tried everything and the other side isn't yielding, it's like now you have to pick up and go, like, let go.
You know, I just want to share this last experience with you. Because remember I said there was a moment where I was challenged while I was working with teens to relocate, co-worker, even where I was living in.
Yeah.
There was a moment at that point in time that I had a challenge in there. I was thinking of, no, we definitely didn't want to live with the persons who at first we had a lot of comfortable, amazing time together.
Yeah.
But even there we were feeling, and, you know, when we took the opportunity to move on, to relocate, to get that, start seeking the opportunity to get that teaching career started, you know, my life changed because we did relocate to a different era. And at the end of the day, my life changed.
Yeah.
Why did it change? Because where I was at, I remember going to the doctor. I was under so much stress at that workplace. The same workplace I loved.
Yeah.
In other words, life was no pressuring me to move and to consider moving. That I literally remember going to I had a family doctor. I literally had a doctor that I could say, this is my family doctor, because he was treating me for migraine. That's how much it was affecting me.
Yes,
and the moment I relocated and start this new opportunity, it was because it was in a new environment, new place that I lived, new everything. I can't remember having a family doctor since that.
Wow. Yeah. Exactly.
So my life at that time, to me, it felt like I was at rock bottom.
Yeah.
But when everything starts happening, wherever I was, where I was living, at the workplace, in my life, personal life, as I say, I had to go to the doctor. So everything was pushing me to relocate. Person say, hey, opportunities are there. When I finally made, in other words, I started the process. It's not going to be immediate, as we explained. I started the process. I started enjoying my work because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to leave. When I did leave, it changed my entire life. I didn't have to go back to a doctor where I was, in other words, because things were so bad then. Once you make that change, it can only get better.
Very good.
All right.
So, we hope you guys enjoyed this discussion, and obviously we want to hear from you.
Yes.
You know, and if you have anything you want to chime in and add on to, we're definitely open, and we want to hear from you guys. So don't forget to thumbs up, subscribe if this is your first time visiting, and we look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode of
The Morgan's
Dialogues.
Take care.
Bye.